Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Beautiful first Monday of April 2021. We say it every time we hop on to one of these exciting webinars that I feel like I went to sleep a year ago and just woke up. Time is moving at warp speed. And we are doing everything we can to inform you and keep up here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. My name is Shannon Hawkins, and I'm very excited to have such a fun group of panelists today. We are going to be tackling some fun topics. But before we do, I just want to say a huge shout out to the city of Albuquerque, our partner for this, about next 6 weeks or so of panel webinars that we will be doing, introducing you every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon to 1 to different departments within the city and what they do, what is their mission. We're going to meet the people behind the departments that, are either directors or are working within those departments. So you as small business owners and community members know how to engage, know who to engage, and especially for small business, how these departments can help you in your economic recovery. So today we have a great panel. And let's just go ahead and get started immediately by doing a quick around the panel, around the screen, if you will, who everybody is and what department they work for. And if you'd like to say what your title is, that would be great too. And then we're just gonna get started and kick this off. We are so excited to have APD and AFD with us today, kicking us off for this next 6 weeks. So thank you so much. And a big shout out to Stacy, who's hiding behind the panel here, who's been a big help in helping us get this program initiative started. So I'm just going to start with how you are sitting on my screen. So I'm going to start to my right, Mr. Sitabaka. Can you introduce yourself and who you're with?
Thank you, Shannon. I'm Ernie Sitabaka. I'm the president and CEO of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. Happy to be here. Happy Monday. Thank you. Well, there's going to be a great conversation today. Thanks.
Jerry?
Hi, my name's Jerry Bachicha. I'm the Violence Intervention Program Manager for the City of Albuquerque and APD.
Welcome. Well, good morning, everybody. Chief Medina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Harold Medina. I'm the Chief of Police for the Albuquerque Police Department.
Welcome. Deputy Chief Frazier and guest.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sean Frazier. I'm the Deputy Chief of Human Resources. Joining me today is Deputy Chief Gallegos. He's the Fire Marshal for the City of Albuquerque. I am acting Fire Chief this week. Fire Chief Paul Dow is on vacation, so he extends his regret for not being able to attend. But we're gonna make do. We're gonna have a good time.
We'll make him proud. And Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Keene, the Senior Crime Prevention Specialist with the Albuquerque Police Department.
Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have both departments on today. It seemed really just appropriate to kick off this series with the two departments that really work inside of our community daily, literally 24/7 out there supporting not just the community, but small businesses. And so we kind of just want to kick this off with learning a little bit about the departments. Now, we all think we know what the police department does, and we all think we know what the fire department does, but there is so many different initiatives that happen and ways that they reach out that we're probably all going to go, wow, I didn't know that happened. So I'd like to kind of start with Chief Medina, just to share with us. I'm sure there's the basics we know, but tell us a little bit about the department and a little bit about who is currently in the leadership roles within the department and a little bit about what you're doing inside of APD.
Thank you. The Albuquerque Police Department, I like to phrase it that we're involved in 4 key issues that we're dealing with the community that we're working on. Number 1 is crime reduction. Our goal is to reduce crime within the city of Albuquerque. And we have several operations that are addressing this in the short term. And I'm very specific about the term short term because these are short term fixes, such as our anti-crime operations, our violence interruption program, Metro 15, taking some of the most violent people off the streets. But I think the second thing we need to remember is a lot of these arrest operations are short term. So we're also working with other community stakeholders to find long-term solutions to some of the issues that are plaguing the city of Albuquerque, such as substance abuse and mental health. So we're looking to increase our resources and see how we could plug in and work closer with those two providers to help us with some of those long-term solutions. Second is community engagement. Community engagement / community policing is huge. I think it affects every part of the community. One of the ways that the Hispano Chamber may be interested is we work with a lot of businesses throughout the city of Albuquerque, and we understand the importance of supporting our local businesses and making sure that they have a safe, crime-free environment to work with. We have plugins with the big box stores. We're working with the hotel, motel industries. We're working to get a meeting going with some of our Mexican national business owners through LULAC. So we're working in a lot of different ways to make sure that we support small business. But our ambassador program is going to be key to making sure that every single group within the community, based on whether it's race, religion, that they have an ear for the Albuquerque Police Department, and we have an officer assigned to them. The third area we're working on is recruiting. This is a great career. We'd like to staff our department with members of the community. They understand the uniqueness of our community, and they kind of take ownership to protecting their city and their families. So we're going to continue to recruit. We'd like to add 100 new officers every year with retirements. That's 150 good, well-paying jobs that the department can offer to the community every year. And I think that's one of the things we need to continue to take advantage of, making sure that we're advertising and recruiting from within the community. You know, and the fourth and last part that we're really looking at is we really are looking to see how we could meet the requirements of our settlement agreement. The settlement agreement and crime reduction go hand in hand with one another. We need to have constitutional policing. We need to be proactive, but we also need to make sure that we have community support. So those are our 4 key areas that we're working on. And some of our main leadership is Deputy Chief JJ Griego oversees a lot of our technology and support sections. Deputy Chief Art Gonzalez oversees investigations. Deputy Chief Mike Smathers oversees our special operations. Deputy Chief Donnie Oliveira oversees the field services. Chief of Staff Barker, she oversees a lot of the staffing needs and assists me in the day-to-day running of the department. And Deputy Chief Eric Garcia oversees our settlement agreement. And as you may be aware, we've brought on Superintendent Sylvester Stanley, who's going to oversee 3 parts of the department, and that's going to be the academy and our internal affairs, both the professional standards and our force investigations.
Well, thank you so much, Chief Medina. There is a lot happening inside of the Albuquerque Police Department. I think we barely just got a glimpse of the top 4 priorities that are happening. And I know we've been lucky enough here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber to recently collaborate in some of those. So I'm going to, Ernie, I'm going to come back to you just a little bit to kind of talk about that a bit. But that really helps us get kind of an understanding a little bit to start this great conversation. So I'd like to bring in Deputy Chief Frazier and Fire Marshal Gallegos, which I was told to say the Marshal. And so I would like to ask you guys the same question. Share with us a little bit about, you know, we know what traditionally a fire department does and our fire department does, but let's talk a little bit about who you are and some of the initiatives that you have going on in the community.
Sure. And once again, Shannon, thank you for having us this afternoon. So just kind of day-to-day stuff. So Albuquerque Fire Rescue, we're funded for 729 firefighters. So when you think of day-to-day operations and what firefighters do, when you pick up the phone and call 911, we have 3 battalions, A, B, and C, that are staffed with a minimum of 168 firefighters. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We also have 135 firefighters assigned to what we call support divisions. The Fire Marshal's office is one, Training Academy is another. We have 44 civilians, so that's a grand total in AFR of 773 personnel, and we're operating under a fiscal year 21 budget of just over $99 million. Now, as far as department initiatives go, I think one of the things that maybe members of the business community are not aware is that there is a national organization called the Insurance Service Office, and they go around and they rate fire departments around the country. The lower the score, the better. It's on a scale from 1 to 10. So in the last 2 years, AFR has been one of only 340 fire departments in the country, which has about 30,000 paid departments, to achieve an ISO rating of 1. And what that does is reduce the commercial insurance rates for businesses in Albuquerque. So we're very, very proud of that. I think this is our 3rd year that we've had an ISO rating, and that's one of our primary objectives moving forward, is to keep that ISO 1 rating. We also initiated the Home Engagement Alternative Response Team 3 years ago. So we do have what we call high utilizers of 911 in the community. So when Chief Dow and I came up here in 2018, we looked at ways to address that so that we have people that are calling for non-emergent needs. You know, they're more social work-oriented needs. So we have a team of paramedics that basically makes house calls, makes outreach to these people and gets them the resources they use. And then that lowers the stress on the 911 system and makes it possible for us to get the right resources to the right place at the right time. We're also big on community risk reduction. Our public affairs office, prior to COVID, we were teaching lifesaver training to every city employee, and we hope to expand that out to local businesses. So you could schedule that through the public affairs office and have someone come out and teach your business CPR, stop the bleed, mass shooting education, and things like that. So we're, fingers crossed, COVID, hopefully we're on the downhill slide and we can really start expanding the community risk reduction to the local businesses. And then one of the initiatives that I'm particularly proud of is we're really focusing on our own firefighters' mental health and wellness. Historically, over the last 3 years, more first responders have died from suicide than have died from line of duty deaths on the fire ground. And so we are really expanding our mental health and wellness program. And starting a week from today, actually, we will have, for the first time in AFR's history, a licensed behavioral health director to help oversee that program for our members.
Wow, you also have a lot happening within your department. Wow. And lots of really, really great initiatives. I can't wait to come back to kind of expand on a couple of those. But I heard what you said about, you know, having civilians and other people inside the departments that help to support the department. So with us today, we have 2 lovely young ladies, Laura and Jerry, who offer different areas of support to these departments. So Laura, I just want to kind of bring you into the conversation. Tell us about what you do and specifically what is your initiative?
Thank you, Shannon. I am with the Crime Prevention Unit of the Albuquerque Police Department, and we work both proactively and reactively with the community to try to reduce crime through prevention. So we may go out to do a home security survey if someone has experienced a burglary, for instance. And our focus is really in 5 areas. First, the Neighborhood Watch program. That's been in existence since 1972, and we have Neighborhood Watch throughout the city of Albuquerque. Secondarily, we have the Crime-Free Multi-Housing program that works with our apartment communities to reduce crime in rental property. We work on crime prevention through environmental design, where we really take a look at how one built environment may attract crime, whereas another may detract crime simply from the design of the property. We work on community engagement, and we also work on community education needs for the community.
again, an additional arm to what the police department is doing. And so lots to talk about there. Wow, completely fascinated by how design can help curb crime. That's very, very interesting. We have to expand on that a bit. And Jerry, same thing, like to bring you into the conversation. Tell us what you do and how you support.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity. And so the Violence Intervention Program, of which I'm the program manager, is we have three major goals. And the first is to reduce group-involved shooting and homicides. So this is a gun violence. It's very specifically focused on gun violence in Albuquerque. To also reduce victimization and incarceration rates for any of the participants that are continuing in our program or that our program comes in contact with. And then third is to build community trust and a community response to gun violence reduction. And so I'd like to point out that there are several other key personnel that really are essential in this effort, and that would be Angel Garcia, who is our social services coordinator. He's a peer coach with lived experience, and he's doing an amazing job. Also, Commander Luke Langwit from APD. He is the commander of the Criminal Enforcement Division. APD actually reorganized to kind of accommodate some of the way that our program works. And so there's a big commitment by APD to reduce gun violence, as well as the Office of the Mayor and the rest of the city divisions I'll talk about later. Tanya Covington from our Rapid Accountability Diversion Program, which is a pre-arrest diversion program. She brings her expertise of restorative justice and mediation to the table, which is really important to reduce gun violence in the community. And Teresa Gonzalez is our new special projects manager. She'll be working with the community to build out the community components of this program. And last but not least, this is a data-driven program. Sandra Trujillo is our VIP data analyst, and she has the support of the Real-Time Crime Center in APD, as well as other data divisions in APD. So we're really, we've been in existence just for 1 year this month. And so
happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary. We're very lucky to have built such a wonderful team in that short amount of time. We had a lot of help from APD.
Well, much needed, and that is super important. All of those initiatives really help to reduce crime and, of course, help make a better community for everybody to thrive in, including small businesses. So I definitely want to hop back over to Chief Medina and kind of bring Ernie into this conversation a little bit. Now, we all know that police recruitment is not always the easiest, and there is some different initiatives that are happening around to help make that happen. I'm sure 100 a year is probably not easy to get to. Hiring in general right now is just crazy, kind of post-COVID, if we can say post-COVID yet. I don't know if we can say that. So Chief Medina, I want to talk to you a little bit about, what do we need to do as a community? How can we help really get the word out about the importance of, finding the people that really have the heart, the passion, and the drive to support the community as a police officer? And then Ernie, I'd love for you to chime in and share a little bit about some of the projects we're working on with them. Chief Medina.
I think it's really important that we recognize today's law enforcement officer is more of a community caretaker than that warrior mentality of the past. And I think that's the cultural change we need to make within APD. And, I try to emphasize to our officers that, 85 to 95% of their contact is with victims. And it may be the one interaction they have with police over a 10, 15-year period. And it's imperative to continue to build support, that we have strong communication skills. And understanding our culture and being from Albuquerque, to me, is a priority for a variety of reasons. I think that, number one, they're good jobs. We have a good retirement. We get paid very well. And I think it's something that assists the community, but it's also gives us an understanding of working with the community. And I have a philosophy that, like, with one hand, we're trying to build that bond of trust with the community. But with the other hand, we need to be able to take individuals into custody and keep the city safe. But behind that all is the concept of, I grew up in this city, I'm going to protect this city. And I think that as we move forward, we need to just continue to make this recommendation that people look into the careers. And they're not just sworn careers. We have positions out at dispatch that are civilian positions for dispatchers, 911 call takers, records individuals. Our department is currently right around 1,500, with 1/3 of those being civilian jobs. The crime lab has jobs for crime scene processors. So I ask that everybody always just keep an eye out on the city webpage for employment opportunities with the city of Albuquerque. And I think we need to stay united, work in partnerships like we have with the Hispano Chamber to get these advertising campaigns out. I'm happy to say that we started approximately, I think, just under 60 cadets in this last class a couple weeks ago, and we graduated 46 cadets prior to that. So we want to keep those large academy classes coming through, because we know retirements are always going to occur in separations. And the more we could partner with the community on this, the better success we're going to have.
Well, that is the truth. And speaking of partnering with the community, Ernie, I'd love for you to jump in here and talk a little bit about what does one of those partnerships look like?
Thank you, Shannon. So this past year, 18 months or so, we've been working with the city, with a consultant based in this area to help us with a campaign, the Choose One campaign that you can see on the website. And it's really all about everything that Chief Medina has said. You know what? If we want a police force that is part of our community, then we better get our community as part of our police force. And, during this pandemic, lots of people, especially in the hospitality area and construction as well, lost their jobs. And, they have families, of course. And so they're very concerned. I think really people in that, if anybody's watching this and know of people that you think would be somebody good for the police force here in Albuquerque, they're great jobs. They really are. And what's important is we do need, like Chief Medina said, we do need people that's part of our community, that understands our neighborhoods, that understands who we are. We're a melting pot, and we're different than a lot of cities. I mean, every city, we're different. And, the great thing is if we could get those people to be involved in how we handle our public safety, it's a big plus. And, Shannon and Chief Medina, they understand. And sure, it's 100 new cadets every year gets us a net 50 on what we currently have, because we have people that are retiring all the time, just like any other business. And so you really need to get 150 cadets. We have that. We have that here in Albuquerque. We have that in New Mexico. So I think people need to get on their website. We entered into a relationship with or a partnership with the city to help drive this. And it's a Choose One campaign. There are commercials that started back in November. Back then it was mostly COVID related. Now it's mostly police force related. And it really doesn't hide from the truth. Those commercials that are airing, they show that Albuquerque, we have some issues and we have some problems, but we also know we're resilient. We all know that we love Albuquerque, and I wouldn't move here unless you paid me a lot of money. No, I love Albuquerque, right? So, everybody says that. They do. So let's do something about it. And that's what that campaign is. Choose one thing to do something about it. And there's other jobs and there's opportunities, but please, they need to go to their website. They need to view those videos. They're also airing more and more on TV as these months come up. And, but I think we're being truthful. We're being transparent. We're being authentic. And the fact is, we need people that are from here to help secure Albuquerque in the manner that we would like. And I tell you what, I don't think there's a more difficult job than both APD and Albuquerque Fire. Is it AFR Fire and Rescue? Uh, I don't think those are two of the most difficult jobs anybody could have, but they're two of the most rewarding jobs. I mean, you see on TV when somebody instinctively rescues a child or goes into an apartment and rescues people that are in a blaze. And you know what? If you can save a life, how gratifying is that? I mean, you'll always remember that, and people will always remember you. We need to work with the media to let them understand that for all those bad stories that are shown throughout the country, there's probably 10 times more good stories about what these professionals do to make our life more safe and more secure. So I want to urge people to be one of them. And so thank you for allowing me to say that. I know that's a commercial break in a sense, but I really appreciate everybody that does this public service work. I couldn't do it. You guys are gutsy. You guys are tough, but I admire it. So thank you.
Well, you're right, Ernie. Without public safety, we would not have a community. So we have to give kudos to both APD and AFD and Fire and Rescue because of the fact that they are doing the work that needs to be done. And you know, just to share with everybody, we're Angelique, if you don't mind posting the link to the Choose One website and campaign. You know, the program is really meant to choose one thing that works for you. Choose to work for the city in all the departments, APD, AFD, and on. You know, choose to volunteer, choose to do one thing that helps sustain and support the community. And that's really the story behind Choose One. So we're really proud of it. You guys have seen the commercials, many more to come, but they're all from locals. Everybody inside those commercials are local business owners, local community leaders, local voices inside the community. It was a very strategic campaign to share with the world that we are proud of the city that we're in. And I love something that Chief Medina said. I wrote it down, I circled it and did the little quotes next to it because I want to remember it always because it's what we do here at the Chamber. It's understanding our culture. And culture doesn't always go to what is your ethnic background? It doesn't always go to that. It's about the community culture. And we are, you know, no 6 degrees of separation in Albuquerque for sure. And it's part of the culture. It's part of who we are. And so when we are supporting each other in that initiative, in that drive, we're really understanding each other's culture. So big deal. We hope that you guys get out and view the Choose One website and that you also share it with somebody that might be looking. So thank you so much for that, Ernie. And speaking of sharing, I want to bring Deputy Chief Frazier back and the Marshal himself back into the conversation because there is so much that you guys are doing inside of the community. And I wanted to kind of get back a little bit to the community risk reduction initiative that you talked about in the beginning, because I could see how important that would be for small businesses. So let's talk a little bit about that and why it's important if you're a business owner to be doing your part and how can they do their part.
And thank you so much again, Deputy Chief Gene Gallegos, Fire Marshal for the City of Albuquerque. And again, our goal is to work with every small business in the City of Albuquerque to make them a safer environment for their employees, for the citizens of Albuquerque, all the customers that come in each and every single day. And our risk reduction program that we run through both the Fire Marshal's office and the Public Affairs office reaches out to as many businesses as possible, as well as them reaching out to us so that we can teach them about fire extinguisher training, lifesaver training, evacuation training, and then all the other programs that the Albuquerque Fire Rescue has to help them be a safer environment in their own establishments. It's a way that, again, we can continue to reach out to the community, build a good relationship with them, and know that we're here to work for them. Again, if it wasn't for all these small businesses, we wouldn't be here right now. So we work with big, small, it does not matter. Our job is to walk them through any process that's whether they want to make their business safer, or if they want to remodel their business and they need to go through our plans checking office. Again, we're here to answer any questions for them and walk them through processes to make their life easier. So on every aspect.
So let me ask you guys really quick, could you tell us where can they go to find more of that information? And we'll post it into the chat as well.
Yeah, sure. So they can go to our website, which is www.cabq.gov/fire. And then I can give you the number for Captain Salazar, who's the head of the public affairs office. I think you know.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, that would be great.
So Captain Salazar's contact info is 505-228-6491. And then you can contact the fire marshal's office directly, not the marshal, the fire marshal's office. You can contact them directly at 505-764-6300.
So, Sean, now that you say that, let me just ask you really quick. Will you share with the public a little bit what are the differences? You think of fire and it all goes under one umbrella. People, I think, sometimes don't realize the different departments within the departments. And though everybody works together, they have very specific initiatives and outreach versus, say, a fireman who might be out working at a car accident or at a building fire. So if you could just touch on that a bit.
Touch on like what different support divisions we have, Shannon?
Yeah, what are the different divisions?
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously the big one is our operations division. Those are the men and women that are out on the trucks that are going to the calls. We have the fire marshal's office, which is composed of the inspection division, the plans checking division, fire investigation division, which is arson, right? You kind of hear it referred to as that, and our ADAPT program. So that's just, all of those are located within the fire marshal's office. Okay, then then we have the training academy, which is responsible not just for training cadets to be new firefighters, but all of the continuing education and training that our members have to take every single year. So that division is extremely busy. And actually the marshal in his previous job duration, life, actually ran the training academy as well. Who am I forgetting?
Yeah, and then we have our EMS division, which Deputy Chief Jaramillo runs. And again, that's has to do with all EMS training and response to EMS calls. As you know, our department runs approximately going on 90,000 calls a year, which is dropped over the last few years. Chief Dow, Chief Frazier, and the executive staff have worked very hard to get that number from 2 years ago from 110,000, 115,000 calls a year and drop that down. Again, it used to be that warrior badge of, hey, you know what, we run this many calls and we're proud of it. But at the end of the day, that takes a toll on your mental capacity and your mental health, which is why Chief Frazier was so proud. We're all so proud of the new clinician and the mental health program that we've started to take care of our firefighters. But on the other side of that, we need to drop that call volume so we're not putting that much stress on all those employees that we have in operations running those calls on a day-to-day basis. So
wow, I heard you say it used to be 110,000 calls and you're down to 90, which is still an overwhelming number. If you divided that by the number of days in a year, wow, it's a busy city.
Absolutely, yes.
So that is crazy. Well, one thing that Laura brought up that I thought was really exciting was this thought of, by property design and how something is laid out, how it can curb crime. And, we know that APD and AFD work hand in hand, and we'll get to that here in just a bit. But I want to talk to you, Laura, just a little bit about that. Isn't that interesting? Right now, development, redevelopment, people rebuilding after COVID. And so can you talk to us a little bit about that program, what that is, and how does it benefit small businesses or maybe development in communities that are going to put in, maybe small business shopping areas or what have you? It's just interesting to me.
Absolutely. So crime prevention through environmental design, or CEPTED as the abbreviation goes, is a great program because it works for businesses, it works for homes, it works for houses of worship. Any type of real property can apply SEPTED principles. And so what we're looking at when we're going out and making recommendations to these businesses is we're looking at access control. How is someone coming onto the property, both in a vehicle, as a pedestrian? How are people accessing the building, and then areas within the building? We also look at the natural surveillance. How visible is that business? Is there overgrown landscaping that perhaps could be trimmed to increase visibility? Is there posters and advertisements blocking windows so that patrons cannot see into the business and employees cannot see out? And we make recommendations in those regards on improving that natural surveillance. We look at how well the business has defined and branded itself, territoriality. You know, do you know that this space belongs to someone? And then that leads us into the maintenance portion of it, is how well is it maintained? Is there trash and debris on the property? Could, you know, there be improvements by maybe a fresh coat of paint or something like that? Because how well a property is maintained speaks for the oversight and ownership of that property. So when all of those things come together in a package, it really presents a good product and a good brand to the community. Community members feel more invited and safer entering that property. And again, this is not a new concept. It started in the mid-60s with Safer by Design and kind of has evolved from there. But you mentioned the planning process. One of the roles that I play is I review plans that are coming through the Design Review Board and also through the Environmental Planning Commission. And I make some of those SEPTED recommendations based on the planning that is coming through. So we have eyes on that from the very beginning, and recommendations that are going out to developers and businesses that are coming into our community so that we can start off on the right foot. Because, you know, the biggest role that crime prevention plays in the community is trying to get in on the front end and disrupt or prevent crime that may occur to the site. So, you know, looking at the design is a positive way, and we always invite businesses and homeowners and you know, our houses of worship, if you're going through a remodel process, invite us in. We will come out, take up maybe 30 minutes to an hour of your time and provide you with some good recommendations on how to move forward with that maybe you didn't think of.
Well, you know, I learned something new every day, and that is something I did not know that we even had available. So I would love, Laura, in the future to connect with you. Small businesses need every little leg up, edge up that they can in running a business in general, but to be able to somehow defer crime in any way in their space would be huge. And I really love that. And I also want to say it really means that as a business owner out there, everybody watching, you need to take initiative as well and say, what can I do to do my part to help? If every business does their part, then we can really help inside of that initiative. So I really love that. Thank you so much, Laura. And Jerry, you guys also have some great programs for only being in you know, a year in, if you will. And I know that you talked about building community trust, and I think that that's a huge part of what we need to do together between the community and the different departments to be able to do that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Right. So this is a multi-pronged strategy, and it has like 4 different areas of that we need to build out. And like I said, we've only been around a year, and we've implemented some of the law enforcement strategy components, and we've talked a lot to the community, but we are kind of pausing in our further build out to develop like a strategic plan that's cross division in our city, as well as cross different aspects of the community, because community is not just one thing to one person, it's multiple things to everyone. And so when we think about community, we think about like community advocates and the faith-based community. We think about community businesses, and both the small businesses and the very large businesses. And we also think about community service provider agencies. So this is one of my made up words, ginormous program to build out. And just like Chief Medina is trying to do, and Laura and the fire department as well, we're trying to push ourselves out and allow the community to actually and open ourselves up to the community weighing in on the development of where we head in our programs, and how best that we can work as true partners in the community with folks and small businesses. So we've had a great deal of success with the people who have participated in our program. We've had over 120 people participate in our program. We've had about 4 people recidivate. We are way above the national average of people engaging in services in our program. Just for instance, in the age range of 18 to 24, usually nationally, it's around 14% engagement in social services. In our program, it's 90%.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so it's huge. And so I think that, the folks that I named earlier, I named them specifically because they helped develop this out so early in the implementation of a program that it's kind of astounding, especially because it happened in the middle of a pandemic, and this is a relational based program. So, but we really have a long way to go. And so we're hoping with this strategic planning, we could start to get input from small businesses and I mean, the entire community, but we are kind of focused on small business on this webinar. And I just wanted to say that we will be reaching out to small businesses in the most impacted areas where gun violence is occurring the most in our city. And we know that does exact a physical, emotional, kind of financial toll on the survivors, and that all kind of rolls out into the small businesses as well. People can't buy as much. Small businesses are impacted. Laura and I have been, out on site together looking at small businesses that are being impacted by gun violence. And it's very difficult because they have to, do certain things to their property to increase their security, right? And the fire department's ADAPT program is amazing at helping businesses kind of walk through that. And though it does cost businesses more, and so we need to get their input as we move forward in reducing gun violence in our city. So,
well, Jerry, please reach out to us here at the Chamber. We'd love to connect you to the businesses that, are in those particular areas. And it's hard to be a business owner right now, but it's also another thing to take responsibility for what you can do, which is your part inside the community. And a lot of business owners want to do that. They're willing to do whatever it takes to make the community better and thrive. And so we'd love to help you make those connections. So
yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing, that
Sure.
nationally, when they do national kind of research on this, that small business owners, even in the most gun violence impacted communities in the nation, always have so much pride of being in that community. And that's the same with Albuquerque. Yeah. And so I give kudos to Albuquerque. Yeah.
No, we are a unique culture. We have our convention and tourism department here, so we get the privilege of working with so many people across the country, and almost every group that comes in will say, wow, you have such a unique culture here, a unique a group of people, and we feel so thankful to have met you and been in Albuquerque. So great things being said on the outside. I wanted to circle back to Chief Medina. Got to talk about the white elephant in the room, or can I say red, yellow, green, or turquoise elephant in the room, depending on where we are. But COVID really took communities and stretched them to their limits. It tested everything you had, including manpower and energy and mental stress. And so I want to just touch base with the police department, just like everybody in the whole world making quick adjustments in just record time to COVID. So what were some of the ways that you had to adjust and get the department to adjust to such an incredible, pandemic worldwide, but in our community? And then what do you see positive coming out of that moving forward?
That's a great question. And it wasn't just COVID for APD. 2020 was a year that I don't think any of us will forget in law enforcement. And I remember back, it was right around March 13th that we got called across the street to talk to the mayor's office to kind of give them an update on the plan we had to protect the big box stores. Because as the governor made announcements on places closing, we just would have rash of individuals hitting the stores. And, we remember the stories of toilet paper hoarding. And I joke about it that we started the year off in March with, preventing the hoarding of toilet paper. And then we worked along and we got great support from the fire marshal's office and a lot of other city entities. And, we had to do welfare checks to close down smoke shops that, overnight they became grocery stores. So they could try to stay open. And from there, we went to the George Floyd incident 1,000 miles away, and we had a summer of protests and demonstrations at a level this city has never seen before. And, then we had some leadership changes within APD right around the end of the year, and we did well. The one thing I will say is we did have a reduction in homicides last year. I know we've gotten a rough start and we're not going to hide from that this year. We're making adjustments, but it's something we're seeing nationwide. But we were one of, I believe, 2 other large cities that had reductions, and everybody else had huge increases in their homicide numbers. So we continue to work as hard as we can. We've made some adjustments in our homicide, but I think 2020 showed us the resilience of the Albuquerque Police Department, how we can adapt very quickly to a new set of circumstances, and how we can move forward from that. And things we've also learned is the value of community partnerships. On my first day as interim chief, I reached out to one of our largest protest organizers, and from a summer of being in conflict with one another to a weekly meeting at this point to see how we could plan something together in the future is just a big key to the direction that the police department has to go in building that trust and understanding with the community.
Thank you so much for that. And it is true. I mean, wow, when you say all those things, I remembered where I was and when all that was happening and what was happening. And to ever think that we would be here today just really proves the resilience of our community and where everybody stands together. And so Deputy Chief Frazier and same with the Marshal, I'd love to ask you guys the same question. You really had to do a super fast pivot into COVID. And what were some of the things that you had to do? How did you get people prepared, your staff? They're working hands-on with calls, people being diagnosed or being positive with COVID. And what have we learned? How do we move? What are some of the positive things we move forward with now?
Yeah, and actually I'll echo what Chief Medina said. That's a great question. And this is probably one of the few really positive stories that I can tell about this whole arc of a COVID story. But have you ever wished you could tell the future or talk to someone that was from the future? So we actually got to do that. So when this all started, when it was first on our radar, mid to end February, Seattle was the epicenter of the COVID outbreak in the United States. So what Chief Dow and the executive staff did is we reached out to fire departments in the Pacific Northwest. We reached out to Seattle Fire. Kirkwood was another one that just got hammered in the very early stages of COVID. And we just asked them, based on what you've gone through, what would you have done differently? And so it was literally like talking to someone from the future. So that's where we came up with, we had what's called the Scout response, where if you go to a possible suspected COVID patient, you only send one person into the residence to do the initial evaluation. One of the things that they were big on is you have to lock the fire stations down. You have to do temperature checks on your members coming in and out. And just that alone, we caught, anywhere from 6 to a dozen of our members that were symptomatic coming to work, and we're able to get them to not come into the workplace. So by far, like, our overwhelming goal throughout all of that was the protection of the men and women that were responding to these COVID cases. And we just got an early jump on it because we were able to reach out to other departments that had already gone through that. And then as far as positives to take away from it, our relationship with APD, like Chief Medina said, I think, the fire marshal's office works hand in hand with APD to a level I haven't seen in my career, and I've been here almost 24 years. And then it just prepares us for the next one, because this is not going to be the only one, or it could be a continuation. The World Health Organization saying it is an endemic, not pandemic. So we're just better prepared as an organization for something like this in the future.
That is a great story and a great insight as to how you pivoted so fast. I know everybody hates the word pivot. I get yelled at all the time. I'm going to get yelled at now for saying it. But we did. We had to pivot very quickly to figure out, you're going in this direction. Now we got to go this direction. It's a pivot. For everybody out there that's going to start texting me. And so you have to do it quickly. And so I love that you said that you guys were able to get out up to other states that were already kind of knee deep in COVID as it happened. What a great, technique to be able to do that and learn from them and be able to control it here as well. And I'm super excited to know that the departments are ready for next time in pre-planning. God forbid that ever happen again to our community and to us. I think we have a better understanding, a better response to what would happen if it ever happened again. And that makes, I think, all of the community feel better and safer. So I'm really excited about that. So as we start to kind of wind down and close up this time with APD and AFR, I'm super excited. We've had a fun hour for those of you that have missed some of these topics. Very important information. You can always revisit us back at www.ahcnm.org. That is our website where we'll post all of the videos. And of course, it'll be hanging out on our Facebook page for a while as well. So you can see that there. But I wanted to come back and kind of just talk about what are you the most proud of? And I know that this year brings out those stories of amazingness, but please share with us, and we'll go ahead and start with Chief Medina, something that is just a story you'd like to share, something positive from your department, your officers that came out of this year. Because though we all have to look at our shortcomings, where we need improvements, there's also those stories that Ernie talked about that sometimes don't get highlighted and sometimes don't get recognized. And so I'd love to hear from you about something that maybe we didn't hear about that really makes you proud of your department.
I think the one thing that stood out last year that really made me proud of this department was the resilience, as we talked about earlier, especially during the protests. Our ERT teams, our traffic section, our ops review, day in and day out, they were prepared for demonstrations and protests. And I remember I'd go to each briefing to brief the officers, and we'd talk about, we're here again. And I remember the strain on, family life, being there every day, being on call, the 12, 13-hour days at those points. And these officers were all going through this. And I just remember the officers sitting in there, and they never quit. They were there every day to make sure that the city was protected, we were safe, that everybody had their right to peacefully assemble. And it was just a nonstop effort by our officers during those periods of time. And I always say that it would have been very easy for the protesters to break us. I mean, it was hours earlier for us of preparation, hours late for debriefings, and the men and women of this department, both sworn and civilian, stepped up and performed at a level that I will always be grateful and recognize how hard that period of time was for us.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, a big thank you to the Albuquerque Police Department for everything they've done over this past year. And of course prior, but this year really brought out the best in everybody, I feel, especially within our community. So I'd like to move over to Deputy Chief Frazier and Marshal Gallegos. The same question. Is there a story? Is there just something more, regarding your department? But what were some of the things that maybe we've not heard about that you're really just proud of your department?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of piggyback on what Chief Medina said, but and actually Ernie touched on this like at the beginning. But the whole reason people come into this profession is for, it's for selfless service, right? It's to do something in service to another member of the community. And our men and women have done that, for years and years and years. But I think that the COVID pandemic really just reinforced the level of commitment that our men and women have every day. And the example I give is that we converted rescue units very early on to just respond to COVID cases. And so we sent out, an interdepartmental memo asking for volunteers. And in my mind, I'm thinking, no one is going to volunteer to just go strictly on COVID cases. That's bananas. And we actually had more of our members volunteer than we had positions on those trucks. And I mean, you want to just talk about something that's just really, really humbling, is that. So that's what I will take away from the year 2020 for sure.
Wow, that is amazing. And again, it goes back to our culture, the culture of our community and how selfless people are. There was so many businesses that stepped up during this time. There was, we did a big initiative with Twister's Restaurants, Feed the Front Lines, and we saw so many police stations and fire stations and nurses stations and hospital parking lots, just making sure that everybody had food. And it was just a great initiative. And again, it just goes back to this resilience that we have as a community and how we come together in times of need. So as we close up this hour, I just want to give a huge shout out again to all the panelists. Thank you, Jerry and Laura and Chief Medina, for supporting APD, supporting our community any way they can. I think we learned today that there's a lot of programs and a lot of initiatives that not just the community, that small business owners may not know exist. So I highly encourage you guys to get online, reach out to Laura and Jerry and find out how you can do your part, how you can make your business safer in the community, but what can you also do to help support this? I think that's the big takeaway from the Albuquerque Police Department. And a big shout out to Marshal Gallegos. Thank you for joining us, as well as Deputy Chief Frazier. It's been a pleasure to learn all about the department. And again, tons of initiatives that I don't think we knew about. I wish we had a ton more time, because these programs that are within these departments are so important. They're important to how they impact the community, and they're important to how they impact your small business. And we want you to reach out. They want you to reach out. They want you to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, but part of the solution. How can we come together creatively and really help to rebuild recovery right now during this time? A big thank you to Laura and Jerry. I had such a pleasure to get to know you and hear all about you. Can't wait to work with you in the future. And Ernie, before we close up, I am positive there is something you'd like to say.
Well, choose one and do it. People, please get on the website, first of all, to see the beautiful videos, but also to see where you can contribute to be part of this community by either applying for a great job, volunteering, or donating. So choose one and do it. Let's continue that thing. Thank you.
Awesome. And Chief Medina, any last words?
No, I just want to thank the Chamber for the time today to speak and kind of bring our department to the community, and for the support when our recruiting efforts this past year. And hopefully we could continue to work together to make Albuquerque a better place and make sure that all of the city is representative and everybody's voice is heard with the police department.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Deputy Chief Frazier, any last words?
No, Shannon, thanks again for the time, the opportunity. It was awesome. We appreciate you guys. It's always good to see you and happy to do it again.
Yes, we hope to do it again. We'd love to keep up to date with everything that's happening with both departments. And again, a big shout out to the mayor's office. Thank you to the city of Albuquerque for your constant support and partnership here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. We're very thankful. And if you guys have questions that did not get answered, please reach out, post it in the Facebook chat. We will make sure and send emails to get your questions answered. Or if you have ideas, reach out. That's what we're here for. Join us on Wednesday as we get to meet 2 more departments inside the city of Albuquerque. We're going to have so much fun over the next few weeks getting to know how you can be involved with the city and what the city can do for you as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous Monday, and we will see you guys on Wednesday, where we hear from solid waste and environmental health. Bye, everybody.